Để học hiệu quả hơn, bạn hãy tìm link tải file PDF đầy đủ của bài học ở phần bình luận. Nếu chưa thấy link, hãy để lại bình luận yêu cầu để mình gửi thêm tài liệu. File PDF không chỉ là phần nội dung mở rộng, mà còn là tài liệu giúp bạn luyện tiếng Anh có hệ thống hơn. Sau đây là nội dung tóm tắt bằng tiếng Việt. Người kể chuyện lần đầu tiên tự làm một cuốn truyện tranh mini. Người kể dùng những trang vở cũ vẫn còn mặt giấy trắng. Người kể gấp các trang giấy lại và buộc chúng bằng chì. Sau đó, người kể sáng tạo một câu chuyện về một chú mèo dũng cảm trong không gian. Chú mèo sống trên một hành tinh kẹo và nói chuyện với một chú robot buồn ngủ. Những bức vẽ không hoàn hảo, nhưng người kể cảm thấy rất vui. Ngày hôm sau, người kể mang cuốn truyện tranh đến trường. Lúc đầu, người kể thấy ngại và sợ. Bạn bè thích câu chuyện và hỏi chuyện gì sẽ xảy ra tiếp theo. Người kể học được rằng sự sáng tạo có thể bắt đầu từ những điều đơn giản.
I still remember the first time I made a mini comic book by myself. It was a warm afternoon after school, and I was sitting near the window with my old notebooks. Some pages had math exercises on one side, but the other side was still blank and clean. I did not want to throw them away because they looked like little white doors waiting to open. I folded several pages carefully and used a small piece of thread to tie them together. Suddenly, the old paper became a tiny book in my hands. I felt like a real artist, even though my desk was messy and my colored pencils were short. At first, I did not know what story to draw. I stared at the first page for a long time and tapped my pencil on the table. Then I imagined a brave little cat who wanted to become a space explorer. The cat wore a paper helmet, carried a fish-shaped backpack, and lived on a planet made of candy. I began to draw the first picture with great care. The lines were not perfect, and the cat's eyes were not the same size. However, I loved the character because it came from my own imagination. After drawing the pictures, I started writing the dialogue. I wrote simple sentences inside small speech bubbles. The cat said, "I am not afraid of the moon monsters." A sleepy robot answered, "Please wait, I have not charged my battery yet." I laughed at my own jokes while writing them. I erased many words because the speech bubbles were too small. Sometimes I changed the story because a drawing looked funnier than my first idea. Page by page, the mini-comic became more alive. When I finished, I drew a bright cover with the title, Captain Cat and the Candy Planet. I held the book carefully, as if it were something very valuable. The next morning, I put it inside my school bag and brought it to class. During break time, I showed it to my closest friends. At first, I felt shy and kept my hands on the cover. I was afraid they might laugh at the crooked drawings. But one friend opened the book and smiled after reading the first page. Another friend pointed at the sleepy robot and said it was his favorite character. Soon, several classmates gathered around my desk. They turned the pages slowly and asked me what would happen next. Their questions made me feel proud and excited. For the first time, I understood that a story was not only something to read. A story could also be something to share. That little comic book was not perfect, but it carried my ideas, my humor, and my courage. It taught me that creativity does not always need expensive tools. Sometimes, creativity only needs old paper, a pencil, and the bravery to show your world to others.
Sau đây là các từ vựng cần lưu ý.
Mini comic book. Notebook. Blank. Thread. Imagination. Explorer. Dialogue. Speech bubble. Crooked. Valuable.
Sau đây là các câu hỏi để luyện nói.
Question 1. Can you describe a time when you made something by yourself and felt proud of it? Question 2. What kind of story would you create if you made a mini comic book today? Question 3. Why do you think sharing your creative work with friends can feel both exciting and scary?
Sau đây là các câu hỏi để luyện viết.
Question 1. Write about a handmade object you created when you were younger and explain why it was special to you. Question 2. Imagine you are making a mini comic book from old paper and describe the main character, the setting, and the first problem in the story. Question 3. Do you think children should be encouraged to show their drawings, stories, or ideas to classmates, and why?
Cảm ơn bạn đã xem hết. Theo dõi kênh và fanpage để nhận bài học mới và tài liệu học nhé. Hẹn gặp lại ở nội dung tiếp theo.